Welcome to Authentic Living with Roxanne, a place where we have conscious conversations about things that really matter in our lives. And now here's your host, Roxanne Derhaj.
So Tom, welcome to Authentic Living with Roxanne. Thanks so much for taking your time today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. So Tom focuses on leadership, but more from the perspective of an emerging leader and someone that's either maybe been frontline and is developing leadership skills, wanting to develop leadership skills, or is already an aspiring leader and just wants to get better. And I would say that that's organizationally is probably one of the toughest areas in organizations for middle managers because we rely so heavily on them. So Tom, tell us a little bit about kind of what got you on this trajectory to help senior managers get better at leadership. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I've been in a leadership position, like a sort of middle management leadership position myself since 2009. I've been working in the rail industry since 2005, and I've worked with a lot of different managers from different parts of the United Kingdom. So I worked in Liverpool, in Scotland, in Edinburgh and Glasgow, and also now in London for 6 years. And the middle management level is where I've sort of been at for the last sort of maybe 10 to 12 years. And what I've seen is it's not, when a lot of managers, when they get to sort of middle management level, they think that that's it, that's what makes them a leader, and they don't need any more leadership training or any more leadership skills. When actually, no, when you get to the management and supervisory level, that's the beginning. That's when you should start your leadership training, your leadership development and your leadership journey. It's not the end, it's the beginning. And I've seen it too often with middle managers is that they don't have leadership skills that service their people. They don't think serving their people is what leadership is about. They think it's the other way around, whereas like the people should be serving the leader. And especially within the engineering industry part of the rail industry where I'm from, it's very much male-dominated industry, and it's very dictatorship style leadership rather than service-provided leadership. So the reason that I wrote the book is to try and help these levels of leaders or managers to change their way of thinking and to basically lead their people better and treat their people better, to realize that it is actually their responsibility to grow and develop their people. It's not the responsibility of the team to serve them, if you know what I mean.
Do you think it's because the industry that you're in, Tom, is a very technical, I would say, some elements of engineering, and I've worked in my consulting role on the psychological ends with engineering firms, that it's because they're technically driven. It's kind of, not that you don't need people skills, you absolutely do, but your go-to, or maybe potentially people that are attracted or fitted to those organizations are more, what I would say, probably left-brainers, less likely to be as connected to the soft skills of communication. Would you say that's a fair kind of statements about engineering or engineering kind of environments?
Yeah, definitely. Because what normally happens is you have your team of engineers, and then you have, like, say, your best engineer. And what usually happens with your best engineer is he or she is the one who gets promoted to the manager's job when it becomes available. Mm-hmm. But the difference is being an engineer and being a manager and a leader are completely different. Because you're the best engineer, that won't make you the best leader or best manager, because when you get to management level or leadership level, your business isn't engineering anymore, it's people. You're in the people business. You're not in engineering anymore. Your business is about people. And it's the same in any industry. Like you could be in the fashion industry and you could be, brilliant at making clothes.
Yes.
But if you get promoted to a leadership role, then your job isn't about making clothes anymore. It's about people. And that's what managers don't sort of take on board, is that their priority is still, getting the job done, getting the results at the end of the month, or getting the business growth or something like that. When actually, no, your job is people growth, is, people development. It's, developing new leaders is your role. It's not about getting the job done anymore. But that's what these managers, they don't sort of grasp that when they take on the new role.
So they don't delineate what happens, unfortunately, in most firms. And I would say, regardless of skill, they look at who's kind of done well on projects, for instance, in engineering or different kinds of environments. But sometimes those people, they'd be good at the actual technical skill of the job, but they have limited capacity and sometimes limited ability. And we could talk more about that, to be able to connect with people. And what we know with leadership is, we want to be led, all of us, regardless, right? We spend so much time, maybe we used to be able to say at work versus home, but even if we're home, we're still working a lot, and we want to be connected to the people that we work with. But if we have a leader that is disconnected, oftentimes I think you get, I would say it's probably 65 to 75% productivity with someone just because they have the skill. But if they're connected, you do get higher levels of productivity. Absolutely. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a difference between, following a manager and following a leader. You follow a manager because you have to, he or she is in the management position and you have to follow them because, that's how you get paid at the end of the month, or that's how you, keep your job. But with a leader, you follow a leader because you want to. There's a huge difference between having to follow a leader and wanting to. Like, when you want to follow a leader, you're following a role model. You're following someone you aspire to be, someone who you aspire to maybe replace their position one day, because you want that you want to have the same influence on your people as they're having on you. So they're inspiring you to become a better person. It's not just about being good at the job or becoming better at the job. It's about living a better life. It's about, because as you just well said before, there's the professional life and personal life. But if in your professional life, if you're having a bad day, it interferes and interacts and influences your personal life. Because if you had a bad day at work because you had a run-in with your boss, or you had a poor experience with your boss, when you go home, you don't just flick a switch and you're totally happy again. It's still going to be on the back of your mind. You're still going to be thinking about it. So it does, it will influence your behavior at home. So leadership in the job, it goes far beyond the job. So that's what my book, Manager to Lead, is about, is going beyond the position. It's about, how you sort of not just develop your people to be better at the job, but to live better lives.
So you talk a lot about influence, and I want to ask you two questions. First of all, I think you articulated it, but I wanted you to so a manager, what is the difference between a manager and a leader, and the skills associated with a manager versus a leader?
Well, a manager manages like processes, policies, procedures, admin things, like they manage things, like manage time, you manage, sort of material things, whereas a leader influences and leads people. But the difference between a manager and a leader is people and things. So, because in the workplace, you hear a lot about, managers managing people. You don't manage people. That's what creates toxic cultures. That's what creates, poor performance in teams, because people are being managed rather than led and inspired and motivated. So that's the difference. Is one person influences and leads people, and one manages processes, things, and policies and procedures. So that's how I see the difference between management and leadership.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that really makes sense, right? Because I think, unfortunately, and when we talk about micromanaging, that whole concept comes up, right? Like, who wants to be micromanaged? Like, I'm a psychotherapist. I was an executive for years, and I managed, quite a big portfolio. But oftentimes I would get micromanaged by my senior leadership team based on my portfolio. And I'd be like, okay, well, you hired me for this capacity. Obviously, I'm bringing the skill sets, but then you're still micromanaging me, which was a really, really good way to demotivate me, because I didn't feel good about the management I was having. But the leaders that were inspiring to me or influential, to your point with your book, those are the ones I wanted to work really, really hard for, because I knew what I was doing, but because I wanted to make sure that they were happy with my performance, and my relationship with them was important, Tom. I worked that much harder.
Exactly, and that's the difference. Is like when you're inspired by a leader, you want to work your best for them. You want to give your best. Whereas when you're micromanaged, I mean, I've been micromanaged numerous times by different managers, and the biggest thing that I feel when I feel micromanaged is they don't trust me to do the job. They're on my back because of a lack of trust. It's like, well, what is it that I've done that's made you not trust me? Why do they not bring that up with me instead of
right? So if you've not had a performance issue, it's not related to performance. Where is this lack of trust coming from, right? Like, I mean, and that's hard. I remember in different environments for myself. I've also, been a leader in various roles, and I was really aware that what people needed to know is they needed to experience me as a person. Not that they need to know all the nuances of me, but if they could relate to me, then we were able to kind of connect, and then jobs got done. If someone was disconnected, you could see the difference. It's almost like a bit of a pull and tug, to kind of, create that energy to have a workflow kind of seamless. Whereas if I was connected to someone, it was quite easy to do.
Yeah, exactly. And when I say lack of trust, I mean, the reason that the people micromanage as well, or one of the main reasons people micromanage is because they're insecure within themselves. They don't trust themselves either. They don't trust themselves to give their power away. So I mean, that's what empower means, is to give your power away. So if you can't trust yourself to give your power to someone else, then that's where the micromanagement comes from, because you're not you're not sort of letting your team perform because of your own lack of ability, or your own lack of self-belief, or your own lack of trust within yourself. So it all starts from yourself.
Absolutely. And, my new book, which is coming out not too long from now, Tom, probably about 2 months, it's about, authentic heart leadership, right? Because really, if we look at it, and if we look at someone that's aware, why did you get into leading? What's your story? What values do you bring? If I know that, and I bring that to the environment, I'm bringing my whole self. But if I kind of, to your point, I'm, unable to let go of control or have fears within myself, that translates out into how I connect with others, and then in turn how I lead. So so that's such a vital thing, for that awareness, for people that, like you said, people that want to lead, right, and be influential. If I trust you and I like what I see, I'm going to follow you. But if I'm kind of uncertain, I'm going to be thinking, oh, I'm not so sure I'm going to do this, right?
Yeah, exactly. And people who follow managers because they have to, what you see in the workplace, or what I've seen, is people will give the minimal effort that they can just to get the job done.
Absolutely.
Just to get to the end of the 8 hours of the day and go home.
Getting through a day.
Yeah,
I hear that. I hear, oh, I'm just going to get through the day. I'm going to get through the quarter. I'm going to do what I got to do. Now, let's talk a little bit about this time, right? Because, we're talking about trust, right? And maybe in London, where you are, different environments here in North America had to, quote unquote, pivot and go virtual, right? So here you go from what I would call, in my time in corporate, FaceTime, which meant I know what you're up to other than Zoom or Teams or whatever, I now have to completely explicitly trust you in every way, because now we're at home. So what did you find in the workplace around companies being able to I'm going to use the word lead because I'm going to say that a lot of them probably initially managed.
Well, at the very beginning, like I say, when we went into lockdown in March, like a year ago, at the very, very beginning, we were asked to put a daily plan together of everything that we were doing, like absolutely every single task. And I'm a leader of 9 people. So I had to go to my team and say to them, I need a plan from you every single day of what you're doing. I didn't want to myself. After the first week of that happening, I said to them, right, scrap the plans. I'm not doing this anymore. Them putting a plan together every single day will take them an hour a day. So that's an hour just putting a plan together that no one needs. But the reason that my leaders are asking for it is because, as you say, they were micromanagers and they didn't trust us. But after a while, what I found was once I spoke with these leaders and sort of led them in a way, I was sort of giving them the message that the more you do this, the more people are going to get upset about it, and the lack and the less productivity you're going to see, especially with now we're working from home, whereas the perception is productivity will go down, and in the beginning it did, but because we had no choice now but to become leaders, what I found with my team was we actually became better collaborators, better communicators, better connectors, and our productivity and our performance went up. And how I did that was, I just had a morning call with every single member of the team just before the start of the day. Just I didn't say anything about the job or what they were doing during the day. It was just, how are you? Do you have everything that you need? And is there anything that I can do for you today? And that was basically the whole conversation every single day. And I just let them know that at the end of the call, if you need me today, just call me anytime. Don't email me, just in case I'm not in the house or whatever. Just call me straight away and I'll answer. And that's basically all I did. And a lot of the other leaders within the organisation did the same thing and sort of followed our team's lead. And we saw our productivity and our performance go up.
Well, obviously, and I think, if you think about the pandemic, everything was based on fear for real reason in lots of ways, because Europe, you guys were, well ahead of us, and we're like looking at you going, oh yeah, that's Europe. And then showing after it came not too long after with us, and we start to see the vast amount of numbers. But initially, I think everybody was in panic. So they were all coming from a place of fear, which is what you're describing, Tom. And then at some point, I think people had to recalibrate and say, okay, we're all scared here, but how is it that we let you know, which is like you're talking about connection, which is what you did here. This is kind of cruddy for all of us. We're all in this together. How is it that we can join and, kind of figure out what we need to do to be able to start work again? But I think, unfortunately, there's either the companies that figured it out like you guys did, and other companies that didn't get it, that missed the mark, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this was a massive, you could look at this pandemic as a huge opportunity for us to improve on our leadership and to sort of take care of our people better, to treat them better. And that's that's how we saw it. I mean, when this pandemic, eventually does, if it will ever come to an end, but, if we're all able to go back to the office again and go back to the way things were, I mean, I don't want things to go back to the way things were. I want things to improve from where we are now. I want the collaboration, the communication that we've got now. I want this to improve. I want to still be, phoning our team up every day, asking them how they are, if there's anything that they need from me, just letting them know that I'm here and I'm present for them. Even if it's, if we're all in the same office again, then the way I'll do that is by just, going over to a person's desk, asking how they are. Whereas beforehand, it was, the only reason you would go to or someone would come over to my desk was to see what was going on with the job.
Right. So I think, and I've been out of corporate now for 10 years. And at the time that I left, it was still pretty much like that in Toronto, Vancouver, lots of bigger nerve centers. In that, it was like you had these big like you said, projects you're working on. You're having meetings that are specific to a goal, right? There was no, how you doing, Roxanne? How's the family and what's new, in your neighborhood? But guess what? We've been flipped over the other way. And there's always been talked about that need for us to connect with people. But the pandemic, I would think out of adversity, we've gained a lot of good things. And to your point, we shouldn't go back to the other way. We should bring all the learnings, even if we do kind of a hybrid model between virtual and in office again, and bring the skills that we've learned to communicate with us. And this whole element of trust, truly, people have had to learn, even if they had issues of trust prior to the pandemic, they had to learn how to figure out how to develop relatively quickly and talk to their kind of shortcomings and develop the skill, or say, look, I know I'm not very good at this, but I've got to figure it out. And at least they joined with peoples to be able to kind of work together.
And I mean, what you just said there about like saying that, I'm not used to this yet. I'm sort of still working on, getting better at this leadership, or at building trust and stuff like that, or influencing the team. But if you're telling your team that, you're sort of making yourself vulnerable to the team, that shows a strength. You know what I mean? That shows a strength to the team, and that actually does build trust. When you show your vulnerability to the team, and you're saying to them, look, I don't know something, or I need help, they're far more likely to help you. Whereas if you're like, as I say, in my industry, showing vulnerability or saying that you don't know something was a sign of weakness, or was viewed upon as a sign of weakness, when it's actually not. It's a sign of strength.
Right, but I think it took this for us to, we always said that in corporate sectors, but now what we're realizing, is that if you want people to get creative and take chances, they have to, we talk about, fail till you succeed, but were we really living that? I don't think so. And now we've been forced to, because we've been failing in lots of different ways through this pandemic. And now people have to know that it's okay to make mistakes so that they will take chances again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because as you say, like it was always written on your vision and values boards and in the big corporations that you see on big posters, learn from failure and all that stuff. But actually, do you really learn from failure? Are you allowed to learn? Would your leader or your manager allow you to fail?
Right, absolutely. It's one thing to say it.
Yeah,
it's another thing when you're actually failing and the response that you get. And unfortunately, what we see with a lot of senior teams, a lot of people aren't being as creative because they're afraid to talk about their shortcomings, which in turn, that's a vicious cycle. But if people are able to say, I just screwed that up, and okay, I'm sharing it with you, and to get that acknowledgement, look, we're all human beings, we all make mistakes, but allow people that space so that they can just go on. And then some of the most creative things come out of people recognizing from mistakes, right? But if you're kind of consistently stifling people, then how do they develop that capacity?
If you're not allowed to fail, and then when you do, you think, oh no, what's going to happen now? You're not going to learn. You're not going to see that failure as an opportunity to learn. You're going to either make it as an excuse to give up, or you're just going to do nothing, and you're just going to stay exactly where you are. Whereas, as you say, making mistakes and failing at something is an opportunity to get better at it. Like in anything. But as you say, if your leader is not allowing you to do that, then that's where that fear comes from, the fear factor of failure.
So let's talk a little bit about, let's say I've just been kind of promoted. I'm a big primary manager, and I have some skills, but I'm not so good at it, and I want to get better. I want to eventually kind of create a path to becoming a leader. What are some of the core fundamental steps that I should be taking or considering taking, Tom, to be in the trajectory to become a leader?
The best way I see as improving as a leader is you've got to work on yourself every single day. You've got to work, even if it's just a small thing, or read books, read leadership books, watch leadership videos on YouTube, attend online courses. You can look at free online courses, you can paid online courses, seminars, webinars. You do all that you can to develop yourself as a leader, and then once you've got that knowledge, the only thing you can do then is practice. As you say, practice makes perfect. And you don't become a leader by reading books all day, but you can gain the knowledge, and then when you go to the workplace, or even when you're at home, if you've got a family and you've got a wife or a husband and you got children, you can practice leadership skills with your children, because at the end of the day, you're your children's leader. There's no difference between being a manager of a team of 9 people or being a father of 4 boys or 4 girls. You know what I mean? The only thing you can do is gain the knowledge, but then use that knowledge and practice it and put it into practice, because a lot of companies don't. I mean, there's a lot of companies that do leadership development, but they only do it for certain people or certain levels. They don't do it for everybody. Whereas leadership development should be for absolutely everybody in the company, because leadership is not a title, it's not a position, it's not a right or anything like that. Leadership, everybody in the world can become a leader. We've all got the ability to influence, so therefore we've all got the ability to lead. So and the best way to do it is to develop yourself, and I should say is to by part of that development is putting into practice what you learn.
It's interesting you say that, right? Because with a lot of my research for my book, the most connected, authentic leaders that I interviewed for the book, what they said is there's no difference for me at home or at work. And that sometimes when they were training or trying to get better at a skill, they would ask their child that maybe they had the most contentious relationship with, what is it that they did well? What don't they do well? What could they get better at? And what helped them, to evolve the relationship with that child sometimes becomes a template for them to think about. We all have employees that we get along with famously because we just are in sync, but it helped them to grow with the employees that they had sometimes had a different kind of interaction with. So you're so right. We all lead, right? Whether it's in our home or community, wherever we go, we are leading. And if we understand ourselves and what we, and we know what we want to, how we want to be led as well, then you're able to kind of, think, if I need that, why doesn't everybody else around me need it? So I think that's a great point. We are leading. I always say from the time we open our eyes in some capacity till we close them again, we're leading in different roles in our life throughout.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why, as I say, everybody in the workplace needs leadership development and personal growth, help with their own personal growth, because that's what a leader does, is that it's their responsibility to grow and develop their people. And the best way to do that is to help your team grow and help your team develop. They've got to do most of it by themselves, or as the leader, it's your responsibility to help them and make sure that they're on the right path and that they have everything they need, and and that you're offering your service to them. That's exactly what leadership is. It's an act of service. It's not a right for you to be served by others. It's for you to serve others. And with your own personal growth, as I say, to become a better leader is to develop yourself, but also have that leader or that role model you can aspire to be, or one day replace.
So this is already fascinating. I'm sure you have a lot of people that are thinking, oh boy, I'm managing all the time, I want to be a better leader. Or you're probably having even leaders recognizing that maybe how they're stifling some of their managers that maybe can evolve. So where is it that people can get a hold of the book, first of all, or even if people are ever wanting to coach or have you connect with them to help them out, tell everyone where they can meet you, Tom.
You can go to my website. It's called highlyeffectiveleader.com. And there's all my articles, there's all my materials on there. I've got one online course called The Growth Mindset for Leaders, but I'm in the middle of developing another 11 online courses. So within the next sort of four to 5 months, I'll have 12 online courses uploaded. You can get the book from Amazon. It's called Manager to Leader, and the subtitle of the book is How to Become a Highly Effective Leader. And you can get that from Amazon, as I say, or you can go to a site called books2read.com. That's books with a number 2 read.com. You can get it there if you want an ebook. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Tom Lawrence on LinkedIn. And my YouTube channel is called Leadership and Growth. At the moment, there's about 39 videos on leadership, personal growth, and influence. And I'll be putting up more videos soon once I've completed my online courses.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure they'll be able to find you. So what did I learn today? I learned that, with me talking on leadership all the time, that we should not expect anything from others we're not able to have within ourselves. So if you are a leader and you know that there's gaps or blind spots that you have, focus on what you need to be better at those things. And your best audience are the people around you. And if you know things aren't going well with an interaction, have the capacity or try to develop the capacity to ask the individuals around you, what is it that they need different from you? And then that's when you can go back, reflect, think about what you need to develop and come forward again. So again, thanks so much, Tom, for coming on. For anyone wanting information, you can reach me at roxannedurhodge.com. I speak on authentic leadership and teams. Okay, take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Authentic Living with Roxanne, creating the space for positive, healthy change. Roxanne is a keynote speaker, psychotherapist, and coach. To work with Roxanne, visit roxannedurhodge.com/blueprint. We'll see you next time on Authentic Living with Roxanne.